Hi, I'm Dr. Debulina Ghosh, Assistant Professor of Sociology and Co-Director of Women, Gender and Sexuality Studies at Georgia Southwestern State University. Today, I'll discuss how sex and gender are not the same things, but often conflated or rather confused with each other. First, let's talk about what is sex. Sex refers to the biological attributes that distinguish males from females. Human sex characteristics comprise of the primary traits associated with the reproductive system, such as the external and internal organs, chromosomes, and hormones. For example, whereas women have vagina, cervix, uterus, ovaries, and fallopian tubes, men have penis, testicles, scrotum, and prostate. Similarly, whereas men have XY chromosomes and testosterone as a dominant hormone, women have XX chromosomes and estrogen as their main hormone. Human sex characteristics also consist of the secondary traits associated with the non-reproductive system, such as women are shorter than men and have larger breasts and smooth skin, and men have coarse skin, broader shoulders and chest, and more facial and body hair. Sex is assigned at birth. This means society believes that one is born with male or female physical traits. However, it is important to remember that how one identifies his or her sex, besides gender, can be different from what that person has been assigned by society at birth. This can be observed in the case of transgender individuals such as Caitlyn Jenner or Laverne Cox, for example. Sex is commonly understood as a binary or two-party system, but this myth was dispelled by Dr. Fausto-Sterling, who is a renowned sociobiologist and sexologist from the United States. In her article entitled "The 5 Sexes: Why Male and Female Are Not Enough," which was published in 1993, she argued that there are at least 3 sexes, including males, females, and 3 types of intersexes. Intersexes are those individuals who are born with a combination of both male and female biological traits and comprise of around 1.7% of the world population. Their existence is known since ancient and pre-modern cultures and legal systems across the world. According to Dr. Fausto-Sterling, the first type of intersexes, who she referred to as the true hermaphrodites or the herms, possesses 1 testis and 1 ovary. She referred to the second type as the male pseudohermaphrodites or the merms, who have testes and some aspects of the female genitalia, but no ovaries. The third type, who she called the female pseudohermaphrodites or the firms, have ovaries and some aspects of the male genitalia, but no testes. To quote her, each of these categories is in itself complex. So this means that the percentage of male and female characteristics can vary enormously among members of the same subgroup. Next, let's talk about what is gender. So gender refers to the social characteristics that society considers appropriate for its males and females. Specifically, it concerns the cultural, psychological, and social differences between males and females. For example, women are expected to be soft, caring, emotionally expressive, whereas men are expected to be emotionally strong, confident, bold, and aggressive. And if men and women fail to demonstrate respective qualities, they're met with sanctions or negative stereotypes. For example, while the derogatory terms faggot and sissy are used for boys and men who project feminine traits, the terms butch and tomboy are used for girls and women who showcase masculine characteristics. Nevertheless, the social expectations or cultural standards associated with gender determine gender roles, that is, the kind of roles men and women are expected to perform, including the occupations they choose. For example, whereas men are expected to be breadwinners, women are expected to be homemakers and primary caregivers. Similarly, men dominate occupations that are perceived to be more dangerous and challenging, such as construction work, combat operations, firefighting, engineering, or law. On the other hand, it is more common to see women as nurses, domestic workers, daycare workers, secretaries, or flight attendants, where all these professions demand a tremendous amount of care, nurturing, and patience. It is important to remember that unlike sex, one is not born with a gender. In fact, gender is a learned behavior, which means one is taught to be masculine or feminine depending on what sex they have been assigned at birth. And this learning takes place through gender socialization, which begins at birth and continues throughout the life course. Thus, individuals become masculine or feminine via non-physiological aspects such as clothing, hairstyles, activities, and behavior. For example, while it's acceptable that boys and men can take up more space and spread their legs while sitting, girls and women are expected to take up less space and sit with their legs crossed. The primary agents of gender socialization comprise of the family, peers, school, and media. For example, research shows that heterosexual or straight parents abide by gender norms more closely than their LGBTQ counterparts, while teaching their children what constitutes gender appropriate or gender normative behavior. And this can be observed in the clothes or toys they provide their children or the kinds of activities they encourage them to engage in. Just like sex, gender is also commonly understood as a binary system or dichotomy. Nonetheless, it should better be understood as a continuum. For example, there are people who do not necessarily identify as a cisgendered man or a woman, that is, those individuals whose gender identity conform their sex identity. Thus, there are individuals who identify as agender, ipsogender, gender non-binary, gender fluid, gender queer, transgender, bigender, omnigender, etc. Lastly, there is no universal understanding or definition of gender or gender roles. For example, the Two-Spirit people among the Native Americans and the Muxus of southern Mexico defy traditional or Eurocentric understandings of gender and associated norms. You can check out the links provided below to dig deeper into these terms. Thank you for watching this video. Please like and share it and subscribe to the Sociology Professor channel.